Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Richest Men in Town podcast. I'm Mike Freeman, and along with my good friend and co-host Tyler Gould, we're excited to welcome you to our little podcast project. Tyler and I are just a couple of middle-aged husbands and dads driven to live our best lives. We want to be better every day, so here we'll be sitting down with great people. Not famous people, but great people that we admire, to learn their secret to living the rich life. Probably not the rich life you're thinking of. Our guests come in humbled and surprised at the invitation and hopefully leave feeling proud and grateful, realizing just how good they really have it. So pull up a chair, stay a while, and raise a glass with us as we toast our guests to the richest men in town.
It is Thursday night, Mike Freeman.
Yes, it is, Tyler Gould. Yes, it is.
How you feeling, man?
Oh, my goodness. So how am I feeling? We just spent a couple magical hours. And don't get me wrong, they're all magical, but like the Louder family?
Well, we just spent a couple magical hours with a person who we were told had magical eyes, and that was all part of it. So it's an amazing thing, man.
It was magic, and again, like I feel like Thursday nights are church in the middle of the week.
I agree. I mean, we had the Louder family on tonight. They have an amazing story. Some of our listeners may have already heard of the Louders and some of their story, but we really got led into some of the things that impacted them over the course of their lives, right? And where they are now.
How do you touch this? How do you touch this one without doing a spoiler?
Yeah, you know what?
You can't.
You can't.
Like Portia Louder's story is remarkable, but we actually get both of them. We get Portia and Chad goes places and lets us in, and I'm just trying to empathize. I'm trying to put myself in his shoes. The story, the lessons that his story teaches.
Yeah, that's a powerful night tonight, and there was a lot of things taught. I think that I feel really grateful that we had both Portia and Chad on with us tonight, because we got to hear how they both endured some serious trials and have come out on the other side, not without trials, but with a closeness and with a renewed spirituality that I think is just it's amazing.
Yeah. What if, right? Cool intro, like maybe a cool intro for this would be, what if your relationship with God was really all that mattered?
Yeah.
Okay, think about that though. Think about all the things that you've got on your mind right now, and do they really matter?
That's right. Yeah.
Think about so we talk about forgiveness. We talk about the courage of taking moral inventory.
Well, and we talk about what's at the core of who you are, right? What are your core values when everything that you have that you think makes you is taken away? What do you have left? And is it enough to get you to the next place?
And the power of truth in your life.
Yeah.
And as you increase your degree of faithfulness to that truth, it's like a megaphone to the power you have in your own life to dictate what you do and how you live, but also in your influence with other people.
Yeah.
Owning your stuff, just owning it, right? Ownership of the things that we do.
It's interesting because at one point in our time with them tonight, Chad said we ended up with what we needed. And what a great perspective, right? What a powerful way to look at things. And I'm sure, with some of those things that you needed a little bit in your rear view mirror, it's easier to have that perspective. But man, if we could all just understand that, hey, what can we learn from that thing that we're going through right now?
And there's something that gets played an awful lot. The idea of never giving up.
Yeah.
But people, you have not heard a never give up story until you've sat down and spent some time with Portia and Chad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never given up. Holding the line.
Yeah. Portia went through some tough things, and she tells her story, and it is absolutely remarkable. But at the same time that Portia is going through that thing, Chad's going through an equally difficult thing. And it was such a powerful reminder that, hey, we go through stuff. We deal with stuff. And
wouldn't it be awesome if we could go through stuff like Chad goes through stuff and like Portia goes through stuff? So many times as we're going through stuff, we start slinging blame. We start slinging or creating, spinning excuses. Just authentic, real, like this is what our situation is like. And we're literally down to the foundation, rebuilding.
Yeah. It's interesting. Chad talks about that wall kind of being rebuilt multiple times, but if the foundation's there, it's possible. Right. And, man, I really hope that our listeners tonight, when you're listening to Portia and Chad, that you're finding some things that are going to propel you to be the person that you want to be. You know, one of the things that Portia said when she was talking about hope, she said the capacity to change gives her hope. And man, that gives me hope too. That gives me a lot of reasons to be grateful, right? We're not defined by our worst moments. We can overcome and become
goodness.
Better. Amen, brother. Amen.
Thank goodness that we are not. And what does it mean to be truly free?
Yeah.
Right. What does it mean to be imprisoned? You know, what do we have that, you know, what do we have that's holding us back? How are we our own worst enemy? How are we going to own the things and talk about like the value of like genuine connection?
Yeah.
And the joy that comes as we align ourselves with our core values and the things that we believe. Oh man. I can go 4 hours preamble, brother.
Right. We'll just break this down. But we want people to be able to listen to the words of Portia and Chad. I mean, it was a great
feel
night
it,
tonight.
feel it, y'all. Like feel it
and do something about it. Right. That's what this is about. It's about listening to other people's journeys and taking what they've learned and applying it to our own lives.
Well, I'm going to promise you right now, you listen to Chad, it will change the next exchange you have with your kids.
Yeah, it was an amazing time. Let's do something. Let's take notes. Let's come back and be better for our time with Portia and Chad on The Richest Men in Town. I am excited about Portia and Chad Louder tonight.
Yeah, I hate to go all hippie on you, but I was having this thought, right? 23rd anniversary, May 23rd. Kelly, this is like a once in a lifetime thing. And then I realized, well, May 24th, 2021 is going to be a once in a lifetime thing too, right? Like I'm not going to have.
You got a lot of those upcoming, man. You got a few years of those, dude.
So yeah, we're good. We're good.
It's good stuff, man. I like it. So what's new?
What's new, man? Have I bragged about my son?
You have, well, not to the listening public, but
we got to tell this story, right? We got to tell this story. So let's celebrate, right? Let's celebrate the accomplishments of kids that have our last name. I think that's a cool thing.
Absolutely.
So Abe Freeman is representing Shasta High School, playing some varsity basketball. He's a junior, so you know how that goes. Junior playing varsity ball, it's a little difficult. He is challenged with some playing time. He's gone to his coach and done the right thing, right? Hey, coach, how can I get better? What are some things? Well, this last thing, due to a senior prom conflict, the team only had 6 people on the court, or only 6 people suited up to play. So his chances were pretty good, and he gets in 2 minutes and hits his first 3.
Nice.
Hits his next 3.
Nice.
Tyler Gould, Abe Freeman finishes with 18 points.
I have no doubt about that. I have no doubt. The kid's a baller, man. Kid's a baller.
Hey, if there were any doubters, if there were any doubters, shut up.
Get on board, man. Get on board the Abe Freeman train because he ain't stopping, man.
Shut up, doubters.
That's what I'm talking about.
What I want to say right now.
I love it, man. I'm excited for Abe, and congrats to Abe for showing people what's up and who's boss. You know what I mean?
A little more swagger in this step. You know what I mean?
As there should be.
Yeah.
As there should be.
Kind of like Quinter hitting that game winner, you know?
Quinter hitting the winner. That's always a good thing too, man.
That's one of the best videos I've ever seen.
That was a gem. That's for sure.
That is right up there. Right up there. What's new with the Goulds?
Not much. So my daughter, speaking of celebrating accomplishments, she's at an awards banquet right now for field hockey, doing that, and then we're headed to Disneyland tomorrow. You know, we're just gonna do the Disney thing, see what that looks like in the COVID era. You know,
it's gonna be golden, man. Limited capacity,
man.
That's what you do when you successfully finish a field hockey season, right? You celebrate with,
weren't those the commercials after the Super Bowl?
What are you doing, Tom Brady, after you won your freaking 12th Super Bowl or whatever?
Going to Disneyland, man.
Yeah.
You know?
That's what you do. Now, here's the thing. Limited capacity, but is it all the rides rolling?
So
nearly that sounds like a perfect situation.
It seems like it could be, but who knows till tomorrow, right? I mean, everything's rolling except for one or two, so it's good stuff, man.
So tomorrow you are in Disneyland.
I will be in that park. Yeah.
I can smell it.
Hey, what do you smell? What is the smell? The churros?
It's that churro thing. I don't even do churros.
Oh man.
Why don't I? Right? I love fried. I love sweet.
Yeah.
Why don't I do churros?
I don't know. It's a deadly combo, man.
But give me that Dole Whip all day.
Yeah, there's some places in there that just speak to you, you know? Yeah.
You look like about now, 24 hours from now, you're probably gnawing on a turkey leg.
I don't do the turkey leg, man.
You don't do the turkey leg?
No. I was telling my son this. Like I was at Disneyland one time with my kids, and my son was probably like 14 or something like that. And we were walking through, and there was a guy walking through with his girlfriend, I would assume, younger guy. He's got his girlfriend on his arm, and he is just working that turkey leg like nobody's business, man. I told my son, I was like, look, there's some things that are meant to be done in private, and that turkey leg is one of them. Like you do not, you don't go on a date with your girl and get yourself a turkey leg and a giant dill pickle. You know what I mean?
That's the right. Maybe that's the rite of passage in a relationship, right? You gotta ease these things in, and eventually you got to take these steps that just kind of make sense. Like to me, I always tell people that are getting serious, you're getting serious about a girl, and you're thinking about marrying this girl, lock your keys in her car, right? Lock your keys in your car and see how she responds. Because, right? Like, I honestly, like, stage it, lock the keys in the car and see how if she snaps and starts dropping F-bombs and like verbally accosts you, bail, brother, bail.
That's true. If there's
I got tests, man. I don't know.
It sounds like it, man. You got it worked out. I just know, like, look, you don't want to be like working that turkey leg early on, and then you look at her and give her that nice pearly white grin with turkey stuff hanging in and out of your teeth. That's a bad look, man.
You don't be anywhere where you require a personal flosser.
Yeah,
because you can't pull the personal flosser out, so you're in bean skin. You got to watch out for bean skin.
Yeah, Tyler. I mean, personal flosser comes out like year 2 in the relationship.
You cannot. What I mean? I've never seen my wife pull out a flosser. We've been married 23 years, but I don't go black bean because I'm afraid of the bean skin. All of a sudden, you look over and someone's rocking a black bean skin, and you just don't have the courage to be like, "Hey." And I'm not that guy. Honestly.
You're not a informer.
Oh, I can tell you. You and me have been in a place. I don't know if you remember this place. We shall. This person. There's no way this person's name is going to come out of my mouth.
Okay.
But we were gaming it. I think we've had this conversation before, and there was booger. There was booger coming out of the guy's face down right.
I do remember this. Yeah.
And I didn't say a thing. And I actually think he was testing us.
We failed that day.
Because there's no way he didn't know he had booger down his face.
I was just too disturbed to say anything. You know
I'm not
an
informer. I'm like that. You watch American Idol and it's like, man, this person's awful. Surely they have a friend that would be like, hey, you're terrible, man. I'm all about, no.
You're that friend that's saying, you know what? You're killing it right now.
You got this. So you're going to Hollywood.
Oh my goodness gracious. Well, I mean, that's you got to have someone that you hang with that's willing to tell you the stuff that's going south. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you and I can both probably name people that are too good at that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's people that
balance.
maybe they use it as a weapon.
Yeah, like, oh hey, good morning. Whoa, that's a big old zit you got on your chin. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate the thing. I mean, I was looking at myself in the mirror this morning, totally missed that. So thanks for the heads up.
I'm gonna go. Yeah.
Well, listen, we do have a fun night ahead of us tonight. We have Portia and Chad Louder joining us.
We're gonna go. Hey, Tyler, we're gonna go places we haven't gone, man.
I imagine so. I feel like every week that's sort of how we're rolling. But tonight will be a special night, and I'm looking forward to it. So what are you looking forward to tonight, Mike?
All right. So vulnerability gets overplayed. We are huge fans. Everybody that's listened to this is going to probably roll their eyes every time we mention vulnerability because we mention it so much. But we're not talking about vulnerability here. I think our conversation with Portia and Chad are going to take us to a stripped away to what you are at your core.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you have nothing but who you are at your core, that's where you can start to maybe rebuild. Kind of like in that Melissa and Aaron Engelbright, that holy demolition, right? Rip away all of those the pretensions and all of those things that you think you might be portraying, and like be real with you, yourself, and I. Wait,
well, and here's the thing, Mike.
Myself, and I, you, yourself, and you. Whatever.
There's some people involved in that. I'm not sure. There's a group of people. But here's the thing. I think that, and I don't want to keep Portia and Chad waiting. I know they're sitting in the waiting room, but there's times when we're tested where we either get an opportunity to find out what we're made of and what we're really all about. And there's times where we maybe find some things we don't like. Right. And there's times where we really find the courage and the wherewithal to get through some hard things. And to be honest with you, Mike, I don't know. I mean, I don't know where I'm at. Like, I think I do, but have I been tested in such a way? I really don't know, and I think tonight we're gonna figure some things out with Portia and Chad, and maybe they can enlighten us on how you and I can figure some things out about ourselves tonight, huh?
Yeah, and it's almost like that video that I shared with you, right? And I'll get it for the notes, but like, when's the last time you went to somebody that you could trust and say, "Tell me something that I don't want to hear"?
Yeah.
Right. Asking that question and getting real. And I'm excited because this is a team effort, right? Yeah. Portia's got an amazing story, but so does Chad.
Yeah.
And I think that really at the heart of this story, and I'm hoping we can maybe go there, is the idea that the atonement of Jesus Christ fixes what I did and fixes the impact of what I did on others.
Yeah, I think, that's obviously a recurring theme when we talk with all of our guests, but I think tonight it might have a little greater insight for us, and so I'm excited. So let's kick it open.
Let's do this. I'm gonna click the button right here.
Do it.
Portia and Chad are gonna just jump into our world.
And our world is is
It's
quite
a scary place, man. It's a scary place. It's like a Salvador Dali painting, right? Where clocks are melting and people are eating churros and we're just kind of doing our thing.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Portia and Chad Louder, welcome to the richest men in town. How are you guys?
You got us?
Go.
Yeah, there it is.
Like we're hosts. We can control things. Like we just went in.
Yeah. Have the magic button.
That's right.
Welcome. How are you guys?
Doing good.
Good. How's the evening in Utah?
It's been a good evening. We just got done watching our daughter play softball.
Nice.
So an evening at the ballpark's always a good evening.
Okay,
I
Chad.
agree, man.
Yeah,
I
Chad,
agree.
but I got to ask the $1 million question because so I'm in California, Northern California. COVID is a reality and the reality looks different in different parts of the country. I am curious, when you're watching your daughter play softball, can you eat sunflower seeds?
Oh,
They banned them here, Chad. We
yeah,
go to the ballpark
That's crazy.
and they're not letting me eat sunflower seeds because all of a sudden I can't spit.
Well, I think it's more concerning. You've switched your allegiance. You were wearing a Cubs hat last time we talked to you. Now all of a sudden you're a Padres fan. What's up?
You know, he's all about the standings, Chad. I think Padres are in first place, National League
Yeah.
West. Mike's got the hat on. That's
No,
what it's all.
I'm-
You know
Hold
what I
on,
mean?
I'm gonna-
Sensing.
Chad, thank you. Chad, I appreciate you calling me out on that. And hey, Tyler, we just found an informer. Like before you guys jumped on, we were talking about like, hey, when your friend has bean skin on their tooth, lettuce in their teeth, do you say anything? And I was like, Tyler, I don't say anything.
Yeah.
I think Chad's one of those guys. He's just going to call a spade a spade. It's like, look, Chad, this is going to be the lamest thing I've ever said. I like the hat.
The Padres.
I'm a Cubs fan and I like the hat. What is that? And that's awful because these people could meet in the National League Championship Series, right, Tyler?
Nah, the Padres won't. I'm sorry, dude.
Oh, yeah, you called me on it. I like the brown fathers.
So how can you tell me how old your daughter? Tell me the kids and give us the rundown of the Louder family.
CJ's the youngest of 5. So
Okay.
she's 13.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. Yeah, 13.
Yeah, I better give you the ages because I just don't know if Chad can bust those out like that.
I can come really close.
Hey, you know what?
Get in the right century.
I
Yeah.
feel like that's good, man.
I kind of want to play that
Really
game,
good.
Chad. I kind of want to play the how close can Chad come game.
Hey, I gotta tell you,
Let's see him do it.
I was over. If we did an over and under of 5 years for all of them, would be
5 years.
each. Yeah, there's 5 kids. I can miss them each by 1.
Yeah. Okay.
Over
Okay.
under 4.
Good.
Over and under's 4.
Okay.
4
Okay.
years.
All right. So the youngest is 13. You pick it up, Chad. You got this. I want to
CJ's
hear it.
13. Not Jackson. Sadie is 18. Jackson is 20. Shelby's 29. 30.
No, I think she's 28.
28. We'll stick with 29. So I'm
Okay.
over 1.
You splitting the
Yeah,
difference.
29.
I like it.
Ace is 32. 33.
I love it. I
Thirty
love it.
Close. He's
So-
within
so
a year on the top.
I love
Yeah,
that.
That's
I love
that's
that.
really good. I got to
Hit
tell you,
them.
I someone asked me a while ago. They said, how old? I need to know your kids' ages and birth dates. I said no problem. And I gave my daughter. This is her birthday. And she said, oh wait, I need years. And I said, oh yeah, you got to talk to my wife about that.
Yeah.
I got the date. I
The
got
month of the day. That's pretty
Yeah, that's
good.
pretty good, man.
Really good.
That's funny.
So you guys are living the dream with adult children and teenagers.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Right? Looking ahead, I've heard you never stop worrying. Are you still worrying about that 28-year-old?
Oh yeah. 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 And they're married. The older 2 are married. So then you get to add people to worry about, And then we have a grandson. So I don't know if I worry about him because I just think you just love him so much, and I don't know. That's when it's just the coolest thing. Everyone told me that, but I just didn't know. It's so cool.
Is it as cool
Yeah.
as they say it is?
it's like cooler than they say it is, you know?
I love that. Yeah. Something to look
I
forward
don't
to.
even know if they can say how cool it is because it's just that cool.
Yeah, I think we're going to be one of those that, like, once we're in that stage, I think my wife has this idea of like, we're just going to sell everything and have an RV and like travel to where they are. And I'm like, Tyler knows how I feel about RVs. I got problems with driving around in my own waste. So we're not gonna.
That's why they have hotels.
Yeah, right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Let's just do some hoteling. I'm not gonna do no RV.
An RV is like $100,000. You know how many hotels that combined? It's a lot of nights at the Marriott.
That's true.
Yeah.
And plus, you don't want to become the guy like you're the in-law that's like literally parked outside their house living there. I mean, that's terrible.
I mean, or maybe you do.
Maybe so.
Well, hey, we are excited to have you on our program. I don't know. This isn't a prerequisite, so we can still have the show, but hopefully you are fans of our namesake George Bailey and It's a Wonderful Life, the greatest movie ever.
It's an amazing movie.
We like it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's a great show. I love it. I like classics though. I mean, I like to read classics. I just liked, I'm kind of sentimental. So
like Major League.
yeah.
That's a classic.
That is a classic, yes.
Bull Durham.
Okay.
Hey,
No,
okay.
I love.
Chad.
I can go on this topic all day, Chad.
Chad, no
you're
joke.
going down a rabbit hole.
No joke.
could chase.
Next up in the movie queue was going to be Major League, but here's the problem. It's rated R, I believe, and I don't know the problem areas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like rated
You
R
don't
sometimes
recognize
comes
the
up.
problem areas? Is that
Well, you know what?
Blind
Rated
spot
R
there?
then and now are two different. I mean, I
That's
think
for sure.
I don't watch rated R, but I watch PG, and I'm pretty sure that PG is like not PG anymore. I don't know. It's just crazy. So
Right. Yeah. So we have these movie nights, and the idea is we rotate who's up, and it's slowly turning into like, I don't even know, because Mom isn't choosing all the movies, but they're all Brad Pitt movies. So I'm not sure how that's worked out, but Major League was thrown out there, and I was looking and I was like, son, I think we should probably avoid this one because like I'll be honest, like I'm ready to write it. I'll sign a petition right now. Tombstone should not be rated R. Like, come on.
It is a good show.
Like, take that one off the list. Schindler's List. You can only tell that story rated R. You know what I mean? So anyways, I digress. But Major League is actually a pretty decent storyline, right?
Yeah.
It's a classic,
Yeah.
as was
Classic.
stated. Yeah, it's a classic.
Well, before you guys got on, we were talking about some really interesting topics. We're kind of all over the place. Tyler is taking his family to Disneyland tomorrow.
I am.
So we were talking limited capacity Disneyland maximum rides. That's probably like a dream come true.
Maybe. We'll see.
Oh yeah.
Plus, you wear a mask for like it's crazy. The crazy amount of time you have to wear a mask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah,
I've never done the Star Wars thing there either.
Nor have I.
Really?
No. I haven't done it. I'm going to do it tomorrow with a mask.
Sorry, I just have this
Limited
expectation.
capacity.
Like, I have this expectation. If you live in Arizona, you've seen the Grand Canyon, right? If you live in New York, you've seen the Statue of Liberty, and you live in San Diego, you've seen Star Wars at Disneyland, but I guess not.
No, that's a misnomer.
That's a reasonable assumption, I think.
Yeah, I mean, some of that,
Maybe.
but like you're typically not a tourist where you live. You know what I mean?
That's
Like you're not a tourist where you live.
So true.
I guess I don't know.
So
I don't know.
We're not really great Disneyland folks. That's the problem. Like we aren't. We went, like, we paid all the money to get in when our kids were little.
Yeah.
I think I was pregnant. That added to the fun. But we
Yes.
after getting there and we waited for like a couple hours, we like divided and conquered. So Chad went one way, I went the other, and we had our little ones. Then when we met up, it was like, let's go. Let's just go to the beach. Yeah. So one ride and we're out the door. So we just kind of gave up Disneyland. So let us know how that goes.
I will let you know how it goes. Yeah, I'll let you know how it goes. It will be an adventure for sure. So
I received a sound verbal chastisement in the line at Roger Rabbit.
Really?
Because you kind of wind through.
Yeah.
You wind through and then you think you're there, but then you just move to another room and you wind some more. And so we would pass the same people. And about halfway through, there was a couple younger kids, and maybe newlyweds. And I said, man, I can't believe we do this for our kids. And she said, Disneyland is an attitude. If you're going to have that kind of an attitude, you shouldn't even be here. It's the happiest place on earth.
Well, that is one of those informers we were talking about.
That's an informer.
Right?
That's an informer. She's putting you, she's calling it, right? She's defending it in her heart. Like, this is what it is. And sir, you need to leave.
Okay, you got me.
And you guys did. So yeah.
We did.
And she was,
when we met with the kids, there was no like, hey, you guys want to stay? We're having fun. No, let's go to the beach right now.
Yeah. We're all on board.
We've raised them well.
Yeah, you have. The beach is definitely that's a good place.
Well, and that's why nobody you're watching the Dodger game and like, it's, the Dodgers are amazing world champs and no one's at a game because there's a million other things happening down there.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's
That's true.
Whoa, Chad.
Chad, where are you coming from, Chad? Who are you you pulling for?
You got to go with the team in your area code. So it's the Rockies.
Oh, all right.
They got the cable contract. I can watch them.
That's a good thing.
So,
yeah. I mean, it's probably fun to watch them being 25 games out of the running, but whatever, right?
Well, in Colorado, it's never boring, right? You lose 10 to 12 or,
That's true.
Yeah.
Everyone's
14 to 17. It's like a football
park left
game.
and right.
Any game is you're there, but this year I'm a casual fan.
Yeah, well, that's all right. At least you got the softball to fall back on, right?
There you
the
go.
Dodgers
I'd
softball.
much
team.
rather go to softball.
Which is a ton of fun. So, well, we're excited to have you guys here tonight. It's Mike was telling you, we in the beginning of this before you guys jumped on, we were discussing the value of informers in our life, and I just found out Mike is not an informer. So if you ever want to know if you have something stuck between your teeth, don't rely on Mike.
Zipper down. Zipper down's gonna stay down.
I am an informer.
That's good to know. As is my wife.
I appreciate that because it takes courage to do that, right? It takes courage.
Chad has to walk past me on his way to work to make sure everything's in line,
It rarely is.
Well, I appreciate that because I was in a meeting today at work, and someone in the meeting had a big slob right on his shirt right here, and a little bit more slob right here, And it was like a Zoom meeting. So you're in this meeting, and and later on I see him at a different part of the building, and I was like, this thing, man, and he's like, you telling me now? Like, we just had a huge meeting. What am I going to do in a Zoom meeting, right?
You text.
Yeah.
Send him a text.
There you go. I should have done that. I'm not an informer, apparently. So
you know what? If you can't be right in a Zoom where you only have to be right the northern half, you got problems. Right?
That's true.
It's a Zoom for Pete's sake.
There's so much
have to
less
have a
to take
clean
care of.
background. Yeah. Well, we're excited to have the conversation with you because our friend and our lead, let's be real, Tyler, he's our only, right? Our lead guest recruiter reached out to you guys after coming across a pretty remarkable story on Facebook. And we send him out looking for people living the rich life. And when he reached out to us and said, oh my goodness, you got to sit down with Portia and Chad because they've got a story. We're just glad that you agreed to it. Right. We're learning that there are people living rich lives all around us if we just have eyes to kind of, eyes to look and and ears to listen and try to be intentional and curious about trying to do better and be better. Tyler and I are a couple of middle-aged guys who really don't have a clue what it is we're doing. We are shocked that our wives have stayed with us. We are shocked that someone would give us responsibilities, including like raising other human beings.
Right.
We don't even know the year they were born, you know?
We don't. We owe everything to Kelly Freeman and to Ricky Gould for even allowing us to spend time on a weeknight every week talking to people about what it is they're doing right in your lives. So Louders, you've got some things that are happening in your life that are pretty magical, pretty inspiring. And we're looking forward to the time tonight to pick your brains, right? To learn some things. Tyler, did you have anything that you were just dying to know from Portia and Chad before we get this thing started?
For crying out loud, we just heard about the over under of the ages. We've got how that being a grandparent is the coolest thing ever, right? What more do we need to know? But I am curious because, Mike and I were talking earlier. In fact, I want to tell you, I had this conversation a few weeks ago with someone, and they asked about what my core values were. I thought that was an interesting question, right? So I thought about it, and I came up with a few things, and then they said to me in the same conversation, you know what you need to do once you've thought about your core values, ask your family what they think your family's core values are. So I didn't ask them what they thought my core values were because I didn't want to know what they actually thought about me. I didn't want to get, but I did ask them what they thought our family's core values are. What did we stand for? And I thought it was interesting. It was a little scary, I think, but Mike and I were talking earlier, and one of the things that I mentioned to Mike is that, I'm still sort of fine tuning my list, of what I think those things are. But I also think that at the end of the day, when we go through hard things, and we're going to go through hard things, right? It's unavoidable. Those core values are the things that get us through it. At least that's my thinking. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious your thoughts as far as have you thought about that? What is it at the core that makes you who you are? What pushes you to the next thing? Mike, you want to weigh? Chad, jump in. I'm all ears.
Yeah. Well, I know what I'm going to go last because I want to hear, I want to hear what Chad has to say, because of course I'm going to tell him what his core values are.
I see. I'm just skipping let's just skip to the. So
I want to see what he thinks his core values are before I tell him what they are.
You're going to say, no, you're wrong, Chad. That is not at all what your core values are.
Well, let's see what he has to say.
All right, let's hear it.
Apparently I need to have my zipper done up when I leave the house.
Important one.
Core values.
Well, I'm reminded of it every day.
I know, but that's not a value.
That's a great question. And to pair it with, do your actions fall in line with your core value?
Yeah.
That's got me really thinking, because if, as I back through that, and I think, if I asked my kids what my core values were, it would probably be watching TV and drinking Mountain Dew. That's kind of worrisome. That's not my core values. I know that we have we lived on this earth before we came here, and we have a loving Father in heaven, and I have faith in Him. I have faith in the plan of salvation and in serving others, and I want that to be my core value, is that we have we're here on this earth to love and serve others. And
I love that.
So,
yeah.
So I hope I've instilled that in my kids, but I don't know. They would probably say that maybe the clicker would rate 3.
Well, I got to be honest with you, Chad. I thought when I asked my kids that question, I had the same thought you had. I thought they're going to say loud music. There's just like this list of things, and I'm like, please don't don't go there. But the interesting thing is, right, that they were a little maybe reluctant to participate in my exercise until I, nagged them sufficiently. And then that list comes back and there was a sigh of relief, right? Because I think, the people around us are going to see what we're really all about. And I love that idea of just loving people, right? And knowing where we came from and having a real sense of who we are. I mean, that's huge. I love that.
Well,
Mike,
I can't think of, I can't think of any, Chad, I think you kind of stumbled on the recipe for misery, right? Like, can you imagine if your day-to-day, if your daily walk was incongruent with what you felt should be a core value? And I think that it's really about, I think you know what you should answer. When someone says, "Hey, what are your core values?" Like, "Oh, this is a job interview. Oh, I got this one." Right? Like,
right. Yeah.
Like, seriously, what is it? I'll tell you mine. Mine are my kids' names, right? I have a daughter named Grace for a reason, as a reminder of like the wretch that I am, that the journey that I've been on and will still be on the day I die, right? That nothing that Mike Freeman did has anything to do with the goodness that Mike Freeman enjoys in his life. I have a son named Abe. I wanted Abraham. I'm a huge Abe Lincoln fan, right? My last name is Freeman. That's just like, it's kind of in my DNA code to be a lover of liberty and to be a patriot for this country. And nothing beats the 16th president of the United States. And my wife, although we love the Bible, we believe in the Bible, my wife said Abraham was too biblical. So we went with Abram, right? Abram, which is also biblical, but and we call him Abe. But those are my reminders that those are two things that I hold deep. I'm hoping that learning. I've dedicated my life to education. Learning is a core value for me, and by that I mean failing. I mean doing. I mean getting out there and trying. Tyler and I, we talk all the time about kind of that punk rock mode of living. Like, I don't know the answers. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm going to do. Right? I'm not a punk rocker. I'm not a skater, right? Tyler is all of those things, but there's something about that life that appeals to me of like, I don't need to figure things out. I'm going to figure things out by trying to live my life. But at the same time, Chad, it's hard when you say you value living your life when, PGA championships on and lefty's playing. I'll park it right here for 3 hours and grab me a Pepsi and I'm perfectly fine. Right. The other thing is I've always been a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Give me the experience every day. You look at how I spend my money. I'll go to a restaurant with some friends over putting that thing in the bank every time. Right. Give me the moment. Give me the road trip. Give me the airline tickets. Kind of like George Bailey, nothing more exciting than planes, trains, right? Those things are written on my heart. I don't know where they come from, but they're there. Core values.
All right, Portia, you're
All
up.
right, I'm taking it away.
All right, let's do this.
So it's interesting that Chad sees himself the way he does, because I think if our children were asked, and if I am being asked the question, or our response would be that Chad's core values are his family, which is probably he would subordinate about anything for his family. And then love. He's a very loving person, and he is also he's service oriented and he's humble. He really is, and he's a great example to our children. Chad was sick recently, had a blood clot in his lungs. It's scary, but our kids, each one of our kids, called me or came to me and just said, I don't know what I would do if something happened to Dad. mean, CJ told me, Mom, I had a dream once that, that Dad died, and it was the most devastating feeling I'd ever felt in my life. I don't know what I would do if I lost Dad. So Chad has been such a strength to me and to our children. Sometimes I wonder, like, if he even has his own, I mean, he really sacrifices everything for us with very little recognition or notice. And I can't imagine a life with anyone else. We probably even take a lot of what he does for granted, but every one of us knows that we are extremely blessed to have his love and support. His love is transforming. It did change my life in the way I saw myself. So yeah, I don't know that he can really identify that as well as we can, but and because he's humble too, so he's going to point out his weaknesses, but his strengths are amazing. One of my friends, when I got home from prison, said to me, "Is Chad still the loving, amazing man that he always was?" And I said, "He is." She goes, "Wow, that's incredible, especially after everything you've been through." So that's what I think of Chad. I'm going to tell you what I think of my own core values, because that's something that I spent some time taking a look at when I was in prison. First of all, I know that I am a never give up kind of girl. So like, that is a core value to me. In any situation, I am not going to quit. And it's, I work at a treatment center. So I often tell the girls, I'm like, you guys are in the middle of this. You're going through something hard. You can't see how amazing your life is going to get yet, but you can't quit because it's there waiting for you. And I believe that about all of us, that something amazing is right around the corner. My other, I guess, as you were sharing earlier about having your core values not in line with your actions, that's something that I have experienced, and it's very awful. It's so, it tears you up when your core values, for me, my faith, my relationship with my Heavenly Father, integrity, I would say that has, the beautiful thing about a core value is you can decide what you want it to be, and then you can choose a life that lines up with that. But it takes effort. And I had to take a look at that when I was in prison. I mean, I chose to take a look at that and say, hey, I have this time. I want to build a foundation based on integrity and truth. So I would say that truth and integrity and never giving up are all, seeking, just keep looking, don't give up, are part of my core values. And if I had to decide, what's most important to me, my relationship with my Father in heaven, and then my relationship with my husband, and then my relationship with my children. And that's something I've identified for myself that works for me, that I know who I am. I'm a daughter of God, and that relationship has to be fundamental in my life for me to know who I am. And if I know who I am, then those core values are in line with my actions. So yeah, that was
Tyler. What in the world? Where are we gonna go from there? Like, there is just
I love that conversation, because I do think that, I'm just looking at this list. I'm writing things down as you guys are talking, and when we get to a place where it's us, right, where we have to rely on us on some level, right? Whether that's we have to turn to God, or we have to figure out how to get through. There's this humbling moment, right, that we have over and over again throughout our lives. And as I was thinking about this idea of core values, I kept thinking, like, well, when everything's stripped away,
yes,
right, and what's left that makes me, is it enough substance to get me to the next place, or am I just going to melt into a pool of nothing? I mean, and I love that idea of never give up. I love the idea, Chad, when you talk about, you have this relationship with your Heavenly Father, you know who you are, you know where you were, and you know why you're here. I mean, to me, like that, Portia, you talk about your relationship with God. Mike, you always talk about faith. And I feel like that is such a key component, right? Because at the end of the day, if I felt like I had to overcome the things I have to overcome in my life through my own strength, forget about it. Right. I'll admit to you right now, I'm pretty weak and soft. I don't even inform on people when they have stuff in their teeth.
Hey,
you know what I mean? So for crying out loud, I gotta have something back there.
Tyler, can I jump in on something I heard recently?
Yeah.
So lab rat, right? Lab rat in a bucket, big bucket, filled with water. They're going to time how long this rat will try to get out before it gives up. Rat's swimming around, can't get out. 15 minutes, just stops and sinks. The experimenter reaches in, pulls the rat out, delivers the rat, right? The rat's still alive, puts the rat back in the bucket. And here's the question of the experiment. How much longer will they try the second time? First time, 15 minutes, right? 15 minutes, gives up and is delivered and is given another chance. How long do you think that rat goes the second time before they give up? 60 hours.
Oh, wow.
60 hours.
60
I
hours.
love that story.
Right?
Because I'm a never give up kind of girl. I love
like
that.
the faith that there's somebody there.
Yeah.
Right? Like if
that.
I'm on my own, right? I'm done. But the idea that hand that came in and pulled me out and is gonna, right? I'll give this thing 60 freaking hours.
I love that so much.
That's pretty cool. And that's a rat, right? We're children of God.
Yep.
With the idea that we can be delivered, that we can be redeemed, it's worth
fighting for.
It's worth our effort. Right? It's worth everything. So here's my question though, like so many questions, Portia. Integrity and prison are not usually words I hear in the same sentence. so we can explore that. I love the things you shared about Chad, because here's the problem. We get on and we say, "Hey, rich, humble person, come talk about yourself." And they never want to. There's no way Chad would say, "Hey, and I'm humble," because humble people don't do that. So I appreciate you calling that out. I'm just going to throw out a couple of questions and we can go anywhere we want with this. Sometimes I really wish, this is kind of weird. I really wish that somebody would call me and just tell me I have 6 months to live.
Mm-hmm.
So I can really take some inventory and go make 6 months magical, right? We live with this idea that I've got these endless tomorrows and we just don't. So along those same lines, we talk about we talk about stripping away. Tyler talked about that. And sometimes adversity does that in our life.
Yeah.
Is there a way to replicate the adversity without the adversity? Can I strip away and identify my core values when everything is great, when my kids are healthy, when I got a job? Or do I have to just go through it?
Got a weird
learn it.
Weird thought on that I want to share. You guys know who Mike Tyson is, the boxer. Yeah. I love a quote by him. He says, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Meaning that you're fighting for a world championship in boxing. You've trained, you've run countless hours, you've trained, done pushed yourself to, physical limits that you've given your everything. And then in that moment, it all goes out the window, Yeah. You're left to your own device, or you're not or you get knocked out. So I think it's interesting, to answer your question, Mike, I don't think we can. I mean, personally, I can't be pushed to do anything, to do things outside of my, normal routine, I guess. But I think that's how our Father in heaven, challenges us, how he helps us grow, is through, getting smacked in the face, because then we've got to shake it off. And are we?
I'm thinking of that sacred. Yeah. I'm thinking of that sacred line, right? Is there no other way?
Yeah.
So it's so interesting that you brought this up, because for me, The day that I walked in the courtroom and I was sentenced was a surreal, life-changing moment. It was a death of my old life. I stood there literally feeling like everything was shook. I just, I was facing 0 to 7 years when I walked in the courtroom for real estate fraud. Up to that point, I was in denial because I couldn't accept the facts. I've learned that's not necessarily the best way to live because I probably could have prepared better, but it's how it happened for me. And when I walked to the front of the room, Chad and our children were all sitting in the back together. And I turned around and I remember I knew right then that the judge was going to give me the maximum sentence. So it was 7 years that the judge was going to give me. And I had this feeling of loss, truly a death of my old self. Like as a mother, all these things are going to change for me. And I remember thinking, I just want to go back to my husband. I just want to get back there. And, they started the proceedings. And at the end, there was this moment where the judge, when he gave me the sentence, he asked me if I'd like to say something on my behalf. I got up and I just apologized. I told my family how sorry I was. It was the most lonely, place I've ever been in my life. And I remember saying a prayer, please give me strength to do this. And I felt something very real and something true in that situation, which was no matter what, you're going to be okay, no matter what. And I just felt that I was going to be okay. And when I turned around and I looked at my husband, the judge, pronounced what he was going to pronounce. And then Chad actually stood up in the courtroom and he advocated for me. He asked the judge, he said, please give her time with our family before she goes to prison because she needs it. She needs our support and we need to be together as a family. And when he did that, when I looked back at him, I told him, I said, I felt like a queen in that moment. Like there was not one thing that the judge could take from me because everything was standing right there, my husband and my children. And I knew that there wasn't an earthly power that could change that. It was like Chad and I have been sealed in the temple. And that bond right then was so clear to me. I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I ended up serving 4.5 years in prison. I did not know what the journey would be. I knew that my life would change, and it did. I had that experience of everything being stripped away when I walked into a federal prison, and my life was completely different. It was a journey of finding the truth and coming to take responsibility for my life. And there was a lot of steps to that journey. But what I knew in that courtroom was that my Heavenly Father was with me and that I was bound by, something that wasn't of this earth that would keep us together through this experience. And that has never changed throughout the whole experience. Chad our marriage and our family was protected. We were united, we were blessed, we were strengthened. It doesn't even make sense if you don't, in prison, half the women knew my husband's name because it was such a rarity to have somebody like Chad, how's Chad doing? What's going on with Chad? Well, what does Chad think about that? Like, it was just like, he's our guy. He's the guy that stands by no matter what. And like for me, when you ask the question, can you, if somebody called you up and said you have 6 months to live, that's what it felt like that day in the courtroom. I had 6 to 8 weeks before I went to prison, and every moment was beautiful. I remember looking around at the world and thinking, why does everybody think that stuff is important? Money means nothing. All that matters is this moment. Driving my son to school was this most beautiful moment, this experience, every little thing. And when I got into prison, I thought, everything was so backwards. Why was I fighting for money? How silly, And fortunately, I got a reset. I got a chance to figure out what really matters. My life got simple. I prayed like I've never prayed before. I made connections. That's another huge value to me, is authentic connections with people from all different faiths and walks of life. And when I got home, I don't waste my time on money. I spend my time with my family and in meaningful activities. And I am so grateful for that experience because it shifted everything for me. But I think that people can find that in their own life because we truly all have struggles, but it takes a real honest look at where you're at and deciding what matters most, you know? So anyway, that's my little, you know.
No, I love that, Portia. And I think it's interesting. You know, I agree. I think maybe the difficult part is that honest look, right? That's the hard part, is to really look at ourselves and assess where we're at and make some determinations, some changes we need to make. But I'm curious, you know, and I appreciate what you shared. Chad, can you talk a little bit about how you felt in that moment? You know, Portia, you talk about feeling, you know, like this weight and everything's going to change. And I'm curious, Chad, you're sitting in the back of the courtroom with your children. What was your thought process at that time?
Man, I don't know. That was it's a long time ago, and it's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, we were just so blessed. I was so blessed to know that it was going to work out. You know, I can remember talking to everyone, really, family, friends, and they would just look at me like, you poor soul, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the kids? What, all these questions about how's this going to work out? There's no, are you going to stay married? Are you going to, you know, I don't know how many people said, and I'm just like, yeah, of course, why would we not stay married? And I remember, man, so many people like look at me, 4 years and she's in prison and what are you guys are crazy. You're crazy. Why would you do that? And I knew that Portia and I were sealed, that our family, you know, we were a unit that was going to be together for the long haul, eternity. And it was worth fighting for.
I love that thought, Chad, because it's interesting, right? We talk about the core values that we have, right? And we talk about, and Chad, you talk about the clicker and the Mountain Dew, and but the reality is, you know, all joking aside, you say, but you know, I know God, and I know God knows me, and I know why I'm here, and I know where I'm from, and I think that's the key, right? Because at the end of it, and I haven't been in your position, but when you're in those hard things, I mean, is there anything else that can propel you to the next thing than to know that, hey, it's a blip, right? This is a blip on the screen. And if we're looking at things in a perspective with the eternities in mind, and we say, shoot, you know, we have to get through it. I love that answer, because I think that's a lot of people's thoughts, right? Like, how in the world would you get through this? How in the world does a relationship survive? I mean, we could take prison out of it, right? And we could just insert whatever problem we want. And it's the same question that people have. You know, Mike just celebrated 23 years. People ask, how in the world are you married 23 years? Right. But if we're not looking at it from a worldly perspective, you know, it's not, rough times come, I got to find the next smooth patch. It's, what do I learn in the rough patch that's going to make me better for the next rough part?
Yeah. Can I jump? I just want to kind of highlight something that I'm learning, or maybe deepening my understanding of as I hear your story, because I'll tell you, the natural man in me wants to think, well, there's no help for a person going to prison until they pay their price. Right. Like, and then I think of words. So I have this manifesto that I read. I put it right at the front of my planner, and it's just things that I believe. Right. And there's a line from a Switchfoot song, you know, and the line is that Maybe forgiveness is right where I fell. That it's instant, right? And I was thinking about this the other day. I've got an opportunity coming up to talk to some young people in church. You know, and the stake president says, "What would you like to talk to them about?" And it's like, oh man, so many things. But man, if I could have everybody that can hear me understand how quick he is to help. Like there's no dues to pay. You know, you are in court being sentenced and you're feeling divine blessings. Mm-hmm. And you're feeling, like you said, your marriage was protected. And you have people, good intention, well-intentioned people, probably active, faithful people, right? Coming up to you and saying, Chad, how in the world are you going to do this thing? And it's like, think about how silly that is when we think about what has been done before this thing. Yeah, is this thing hard? Yeah. Have people done hard things before? Absolutely. And I'm not making light of what you did.
Oh, it was, yeah.
I cannot imagine what you did. And so please understand, I'm not saying, oh yeah, you can do that on your head because you believe in Jesus Christ. No, that's not what I'm saying. But because you believe in Jesus Christ, because you've been sealed for time and all eternity, the stakes are high. Mm-hmm. And you're not just tossing it, right? You're not just up and leaving because it got hard.
And something that once that commitment was made, the rest works out. Miraculously, we had a neighbor. We were financially just the nuclear bomb went off. We had nothing.
Yeah.
So we had no.
As he laughs now, right?
Yeah.
It's just not that important.
Well, we've had people,
and we've been so blessed.
Friends come to us and say, "Hey, what about this? Couple $1,000s from 5 years ago? We could go." And I just laugh. I'm like, that world is gone. It blew up. We're starting over. With the foundation is gone. We have clear land to build on. So all of these things.
The reset, right?
We reset. The brush is all gone. We reset. But I guess what I was going to say, miraculously, we had nothing. We had a neighbor that came to us and said, where are you going to live? I said, I don't know. We might, my dad lived in Wyoming. I thought, well, maybe we'll go shack up with grandpa for a while. And she said, you know what? They just barely moved into the neighborhood, maybe a few months earlier. I'd never met them. We never met them. They taught our daughter in Sunday school. So they knew Sadie. They said, we'll put a separate entrance in the basement and you just come live there while you get it figured out.
It's like 2,500 square feet. So, I mean, it's plenty of room for you and the kids.
3 bedrooms, kids. They paid to have a wall. They cut for a separate entrance. So they totally redid their, and you know what? Man, who does that?
Yeah.
Who does that?
There's so many good people, though, and so many acts of kindness. I mean, everywhere. I did not know that until we were in kind of destitute, I mean, Chad, they sent me to California and then to Minnesota. And so to come see me was an expense we couldn't afford. We went a year without seeing each other as a family. And yeah, it was super hard. That was so difficult because, you're fighting this journey. I mean, you're pounding it out every day. Like, I can do it. And you're holding on. And then you don't know where the next, when am I going to see my kids? And some neighbors called Chad and said, hey, we just bought plane tickets for your family to go out and see your wife for Christmas. And we've got frequent flyer miles and hotels and as beautiful as that.
Come on, seriously.
Yeah.
Who does that?
Yeah. We just had, that's what I'm saying. Like we had blessing after blessing, worked out for Chad. And our kids actually, because, we didn't have the money, they had to go get a couple of jobs each, our teenagers. And that was a blessing. And, we just really came together as a family in many ways that we wouldn't have. And all of our kids have said that it was a growing experience and a blessing for them, that that they like who they are, that they have more confidence because they had to go through it. But it wasn't easy. Oh my goodness, it wasn't. And I don't know if we really, we get so much growth from the difficult experiences. You know, there's so much growth from them, but it's so painful and you don't see it till you're looking back. And then you're like, wow, look how far we've come. But during it, you just have to believe. You have to have hope. And that comes for me through the power of God. I'll tell you, being in prison was like a complete different world than the one that we live out here. And I came to realize how blessed we truly are. I had no idea the struggles other people face. I had no idea. And I met these beautiful women whose lives were so difficult, who would do the kindest things for me. It's nothing like people think on TV, all that crazy prison stuff. It's nothing like that. It's like this sisterhood. And because our ward members were so supportive and people reached out, they'd write me letters. I was a real strength to the people around me because I had so much support. And it works like that. You know, our Father in heaven would send me, I would get these books from neighbors and then I would pass them around to all the women and they would love them. And I've had friends that got baptized after I left. But I mean, it's just so cool. It's just all so cool. It's just beautiful. So.
Well, we talk a lot about, identity.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk a lot about, you know, we have roles that we play, and those roles feed into identity. What did you learn about who you are, Portia, as a prisoner, when your role was a prisoner?
That's a good question. Well, in prison, you know, we all wear the exact same clothes. We all doesn't matter if you were a photographer or if you were what your successes were prior to prison. It's kind of the leveler. What I learned about my role or my identity in prison was that I learned that I'm a leader. You know, that's one thing I learned. And I learned that I know who I am now. I know what what I'm capable of. I know what my talents and abilities are. I know who I am to our Father in heaven. And I think that I know that because I prayed so deeply to know that about the other women that were there, because I truly wanted to see them as our Father in heaven does. And it changed things for me. And as I came to know who they were, I knew who I was. And I do that today with our children. It's like, when I'm struggling or with behavior, it's like, no, Heavenly Father, help me see them the way you do. And I think if there's one thing I would say to anybody who's struggling, figure out who you are. Put the time into figuring out who you are to your Father in heaven. Because when I came to know that, nothing else could shake me. What other people think of me, being a felon, being an inmate, being a prisoner, none of that matters at all to me, because I know who I am. Fundamentally, I am a daughter of God with this. I know who I am to my Father in heaven. So I know who I am, and that's just what it is. Yeah.
Chad, I got to ask this. I got to ask. So the people that might be listening are going to be like, come on, let's be real. Like, there had to be some moments where we just talk about never giving up. So the idea of giving up is off the table. I got that. But when you're dealing, right? You've got 5 kids and you're doing it alone. You're doing it on your own. Now there's people, there's some saintly people that are helping you out, and there's some miraculous things happening. But what happens when you hit that wall?
I don't know. I think I spend a lot of time on the wall. That's where, man, I just would get on my, I realized I was blessed with faith. I think that I had conversations with, I've had conversations with people. I remember one acquaintance, our daughter used to play competition volleyball. So we go to these volleyball matches. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And it's an all day thing. You're sitting in this gym all day and you're talking to other parents that you really don't know that well, and you're small. But anyway, so I was talking to another parent about faith, and he was expressing some of his struggles that he's had with faith, and how he questioned the Book of Mormon, questioned prophets or the priesthood, or all the hot topics facing members of the church right now, the women in the priest, just all of them. And he expressed doubts and concerns, and I just looked at him and said, man, I know I've come to a realization. I know that the gospel's true, that these are truths, fundamental truths, and I don't live them very well all the time. I know it. My struggle is execution, not the faith. But it was interesting to me that his struggle was, he didn't know it. He was actually living he was executing, but he had a lot of doubts, a lot of questions. And so I came to realize that I was blessed with faith, and that faith everyone doesn't have that. And I'm grateful for that. And I think that carried over into our marriage. And I don't know, Portia and I have talked about it, and I don't even know what giving up looked like. Like I didn't even know. We were so at the bottom of the barrel. I'm like, what? How do you give up? What?
Where we go, we give up. Like we
go anywhere. There's nowhere else to go.
Yeah, maybe that's why we didn't give up.
Yeah.
So. Well, and I think too, like I had a woman that reached out to Chad because she was coming into prison, and it was on a tax violation. So she was married and had kind of a pretty solid family. A lot of people in prison don't. So she heard about me because I actually blogged from prison, so people could read about different experiences. She called Chad, and when she came in, we were sitting in the chow hall, which is the kitchen. And she looked at me and she said, "Do you know how much your husband loves you?" And I just started to cry, and I said, "That's so sacred to me." I said, "Thank you for reminding me." I said, "That is because what I knew was that Chad's love for me, that he could see things in me that I couldn't see in myself. And so when things were really hard, I guess that I knew that he knows me. This man knows me. Maybe I'm worth fighting for. I don't know. I must be, because he stuck it out. But yeah, I think that we were very blessed, and we were at the bottom, so we didn't know what giving up looked like, and we love each other, so.
Can I rewind a little bit here, because I love the common theme of faith, right? Both of you talk about your faith, and you talk about how that carried you through some of these moments. I'm curious, because I love your comments, Chad, about faith being a gift, and your struggle, would you say, is execution, not the belief. I love that, but I would love to rewind, and if we can go in the Wayback Machine and talk about you growing up, and maybe we can get a little bit of background from you guys at what that looked like. I'd love to know what faith looked like for you as a young person, both of you. And Chad, can you start us off? Can you talk a little about your upbringing and faith as a young man and a young boy?
Sure. So I grew up in Afton, Wyoming, a little town just south of Jackson. Both my parents taught school. Pretty great childhood, man. Afton, I don't know if you guys know Afton, Wyoming, but it's Wyoming, and it's the Wild West.
I've driven through Wyoming, so
yeah. Well, that's the sagebrush part. Afton's really pretty. There's mountains, beautiful place, world-class fishing, hunting, and I did a lot of that growing up. We had horses, and my parents were both very involved in our childhood. I spent a lot of time in the mountains, and a lot of time with playing sports activities. The cool thing about being in a small town in Wyoming is you can do whatever you want. You can be on the football team, the they don't have baseball because the snow doesn't melt until May, but
Oh man.
basketball, you can do whatever you want.
This episode is brought to you by the State of Wyoming Tourism Department.
Yeah. But there's a reason that there's only like 500,000 people in the whole state. It's not for everyone.
Right.
But, that's kind of, that's it in a nutshell, a lot of just a small town deal. Great. My parents were great people. My mom passed away, cancer, maybe, man, I don't know, a long time ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. But she was such an example of serving others, loving others. There were just numerous times where she would, on a Sunday afternoon, she'd make dinner for the family, clean up, and then take dinner to an elderly couple, or just always serving, doing things for others, and especially for us, as kids. And I appreciate that. Another thought that I had, my dad was a great example of service and of church service. The home teaching program, or I guess it's the ministering program now, we home taught together, and man, he was talk about execution. We would go every month. We would go visit our families, and so I had a great example, great family, and great upbringing. So,
can you talk about when that faith of your parents, that example of faith of your parents, becomes your own? There's these, we grow up and we have these examples around us of people that believe and that serve and we exemplify that to a certain degree, right? Because we're there and we're with them. But can you think of when that becomes your own faith?
Yeah, so vividly. I was just out of high school, went to a junior college in Casper. It's called.
My son's on a mission in
Right
Casper right now. He's in Casper. My son is on a mission in Casper, Wyoming right now. Yeah.
So you're probably familiar with the Harvard of the sagebrush, Casper College.
I'm going to ask him about it next Tuesday. That's for sure. So.
It's often referred to as the Harvard of the sagebrush.
That's awesome.
Maybe not. Maybe I just made that up. But I played basketball there, and I loved it. I went, so the end of the year came, and it's like, my dad said, "Are you going on a mission?" I said, "I don't know. I'm having a good time. We're in Casper playing basketball and going to school. I don't know." And I remember him telling me, you're at a point in your life where you need to make a decision, and this is a decision that will affect the rest of your life. By going on a mission, you'll set a foundation for the rest of your life. And I didn't want to go. I felt like I should go. And in the end, I did go. Got called to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Got to Minneapolis in November. It was so cold. And the mission, the rule or the protocol for new missionaries was, they call it 10 days of truth. You had to read the Book of Mormon in 10 days. And allocated a lot of time. And I remember I was reading in this midway through Second Nephi. I don't remember the specific verse, but I just had this incredible warmth come over me. A light filled the room. I don't think anyone else could see it, but I knew that my Father in heaven knew that it was made known to me. So that would be the point in time where I knew, so that my Father in heaven loved me, that all these exercises that we go through, this is why, and this stuff is real, and yeah, that would be the moment.
I appreciate you, you sharing that the sacred moment. I mean, that's awesome. If we fast forward again to sitting in the courtroom, right, and we think of the tough moments. I mean, I think that at the foundational piece that you guys continue to talk about is faith. And when we strip away all the stuff, right, that we have in our life and everything that we think makes us who we are, and we get down to that, whatever those core values are, if we're going to call them that. I've talked to a lot of people who will tell me, hey, this is what I'm about. And faith isn't a component of that. Right. And so then when the storm really rocks their world, it's like,
which
now
it will,
what?
right?
Yeah,
it
which it will.
rocks everybody. We're not immune to the storm.
Right. And then it's now what, right? And I just love like the connection of, first of all, I just love the idea of, and I'll tell my son too that Minneapolis is colder than Wyoming. He'll appreciate that.
No, it could be worse. Tell him.
But
Right.
it's almost like Chad's. I have not built anything really with my own two hands, except I got a rock wall in my
There's
backyard.
an IKEA bookshelf in your house somewhere that you.
Yeah. But I got a rock wall in my backyard, and I spent probably 75% of the time on the first row.
Mm.
Get that first row right, and you can build, right? And so Chad, the life that you have right now and the weight that you had to put, the burden that you had to put on that foundation was tried and laid true.
Yeah.
Growing up, parental example, and the streets of Minneapolis, right? Every time it was negative
it were that
80 or
easy.
whatever.
I think I had to tear the wall down. I mean, yes, we got the foundation, but that wall came down. We've redone it. And,
down to nothing.
To your point, that foundation is critical because you can't build anything without a foundation.
Yeah.
Well, and we talk all the time about sacred moments, Tyler, and like I think of the life of the prophet Joseph Smith. And I just wonder, when it was really going down, and the persecution and the imprisonment and false charges and betrayed by friends, I wonder just how often he went in his mind to that grove of trees and said, did that really happen? Like almost like a reset, right? Like going back and just like a touchstone of like, okay, who am I?
It's
Did
that
that
remember,
really happen?
right?
And the idea is that somebody believes in me because I'm making a mess of things, and I think we all better have those moments. I say all the time, I joined the church in 1994. I had a moment. I cannot be an active, faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on a moment from 1994. Yeah. I need to know, I need to have experiences with the Book of Mormon today, yesterday, right? Sure. But there are times when the storm happens and when my world gets rocked, I go back to 1994.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I go back to that moment, right? I go back to those sacred moments where, okay. And then you come back with some clarity and it's like, okay, there's no quit here. Right.
Let's start building the wall again, right? I mean, that's
building
the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Right. It's almost like that Rudyard Kipling, if, right?
Right.
Can you lose it all?
Right.
In a game of chance and build it up with worn out tools. That's it. And if you can do that, you'll be a man, my son, right? Or a woman. Like, that's life.
Yeah.
The sooner we figure it out, the better. We're not owed anything.
So Portia, we have to ask you the same question. I'm curious about, you've talked about relying on faith as well. I'd love to hear how you grew up, and if you can give us some background there as well, that'd be great.
Tyler, Can I do a favor? I do a favor for our good brother, Chad?
Yeah.
In your mind, Chad, I'm just going to let you know a little classroom teacher trick. I'm coming at you in a little bit after Portia shares with the "How did you meet Portia" story.
Oh, amen. That's
so you might want to get that
we
right.
met in the pre-existence, so I can tell you that part.
Okay. Well, when your paths crossed into mortal existence,
Yes.
you might want to make sure you have that story right when it comes time to tell.
There's no over under on this one, man. You know what I mean? Like exactly.
Yes, yeah, I know, huh? He better.
I'm just deferring to Portia.
Oh no. Well, I mean, I'll take us home then.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'll give you a quick rundown. So my life was completely different than Chad's. Totally. Couldn't be any more different. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. My parents I did an interview with someone recently who I grew up with, and he said, your parents were those crazy people, like the wild, fun, my mom is really creative. So she used to write road shows and acting. But she's also anti-establishment. So we kind of grew up out in the middle of nowhere. They're not big into organized anything. My brothers and sisters, she pulled them all out of school. I was the only one that stayed in. So Chad's got these my parents were moving every few years because they were also real estate investors. And they had multiple businesses. They were LDS. And I actually had an example in a different way. I love both my parents. I'm so grateful for the gifts that they passed down to me. I feel like my mom is very loving. Her heart is so open. I'll give you an example. We're driving home one day. This is just so common. All the kids are in the back of in a truck with a thing on it. And she hits the brakes and pulled over, and it's a hitchhiker. And she has like a big bundle of bags of Easter candy that's for us. And she's like, here, and hands him all the cash that she has. That's just my mom. My dad was frustrated with my mom a lot. And so, but anyway, for my parents later in life, they were divorced when they were after 35 years of marriage, and it was because of a challenge. And they both left the church. And most of my brothers and sisters, if not all, have too. So for me, watching my parents go through this difficult time, knowing that they had lost the fundamentals, that relationship with God and the scripture study and those things, I remember telling Chad, we have to hold on. We have to hold on, because when things get hard, so in a different way, my parents were an example too of how rough life can be. And I'm very close to my parents now, especially my dad. Talk to him regularly, and believe it or not, he's super proud of me. He's like, you're my hero, and it's so funny because I'm like, Dad, I was your hero when I was in prison. So I don't know what that means, but I love him, and I'm grateful to, for the life that I had. I think that what I did learn, my dad was a Vietnam vet, and he had PTSD, and my dad was strong, and that, like, when I was sentenced, he looked at me and he goes, you're going to be okay. I know that. That's what I know, so it was just kind of like, you'll get through anything. And he always believed that about me, and still does. He pretty much thinks I can do anything. So that faith and belief in me has been a big strength in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. There's that never give up, right? That you talked about early on.
Yep.
Can you talk about when faith becomes your own, Portia?
Yeah, I will actually. And I'm going to try to do it without a big story, but in my 20s. So I was inactive in the church from 13 on. I just didn't go. I probably I was difficult. I was kind of fearless, and there weren't boundaries in our home or rules or anything. So I just decided what I was going to do, and that's how it was going to be. And I made a lot of mistakes, learned the hard way. And by the time I was in my 20s, I had an addiction. I was addicted to prescription drugs, and I was actually a single mother. So when Chad and I got married, he adopted the 2 older kids, and has raised him, and we were able to be sealed in the temple. But at the time, I was living with my parents here in Utah, and I came home late one night, and my son was crying, waiting for me, and my heart broke that day. And I got on my knees, I went downstairs, and I begged God for help. I just said, please, and the next day I went over to my parents' bishop, or who I knew that the bishop lived across the street. And I went over and I asked for help. And he got me involved in the LDS 12-step support group, meetings. This changed my life. I came to know who my Father in heaven was and who I was to him. It was a very difficult year. I went to church. I started going to church. And eventually, Chad and I were married and went to the temple, and miracles happened. But I talk a lot about that at where I work. And I think too, because I had been through that experience and my life changed so much when I turned to God, I knew that there was no way out for me unless I could find a God, because I had this addiction I couldn't solve on my own. So that is where my faith developed. And I knew when I went to prison, I made mistakes, obviously, that landed me there. And in fact, a big part of me finding the power to move forward was owning that completely. But I also knew that if I do the right things and I turn to my Father in heaven and I never give up, he will make more of my life than I ever could. And there is something beautiful waiting for me down the road. I knew it because I had been through it before. And so climbing out of those trenches, I don't ever want to do it again, because it's a hard climb. And if I have a skill, it might be that I'm a good climber. But the truth is, I know that God lives. I knew then, because he completely transformed my life. And I've never lost faith in my Father in heaven since then. I made mistakes and I fell. And I think that, that can happen. But I was asked recently, when did you turn to God? And I said, I never turned away from him. And when I went to prison, he just showed me who I was. I always knew I had a Father in heaven, but I didn't value myself. Getting honest with myself and admitting my mistakes and turning to my Savior helped me figure out who I was. And that changed everything. So.
I love that. Thank you. So you ready, Chad? You've had time to think about this. How did you guys meet?
I was trying to make something up, but I can't. It's not that quick. I wish you'd have let me know
in the beginning. Yeah, give him a couple weeks. He come up.
So sorry.
I'm not even gonna try.
It's a beautiful story. I fell in love with you the minute I saw you.
So, and I fell in love with you the minute I saw you. So it was good. It is a good story. After the Harvard of the Sagebrush, I went to Utah State. Had a friend. Actually, he was a mission companion. I can't remember. We weren't companions, but we were the same mission, and we were friends at Utah State. He was dating Portia's sister, and he said, "Portia." They said, "Hey, we want to set you up with her sister, her older sister. She's really hot and she's really wild. So be careful. You need to be careful."
You need to be careful.
But she's beautiful. So he said, "Oh, well, let's go down to Sandy." And so we drove from Logan down to Sandy, and
so I have to jump in, because for me, I'm living at my parents' house and Chad walks in the door. And I remember looking at him and thinking, everything good in this world stands right there, because he has these amazing blue eyes and this really kind, good smile. And I remember thinking, I wish that my life were in a different place, that I could, I wanted the goodness that he had. And I really just fell in love with him. And it, that was part of my my journey, was that I was willing to change my life because I wanted to have a man like Chad. And I have never doubted that I am extremely fortunate. That was reaffirmed to me when I was in prison and I came to know who Chad really is spiritually. And but But yeah, he has magical blue eyes. So like the first time I saw him, I was like, whoa, I'm in love with this guy, you know? And it's never, I've always known that I'm really blessed to be Chad's wife. So.
That's
So
awesome.
Tyler, I don't know if you just caught on with what just happened. We've been doing this a little bit. We've talked to a lot of people and we've had those stories, you know, and sometimes not sometimes, every time the guy will say they had to step up. They had to step up their game. And here we have the wife saying, I got to step up my game to come at this guy.
It's true. Yeah. He's
So
just
congratulations, Chad.
Yeah.
Like we should give you a trophy or
You're
something.
first.
Yeah, there's something. Yeah.
That's remarkable. So you meet magical.
It's magical, and it
His
took
eyes
a
are
little
magical.
bit to get it together and get to the temple, but it's been a blessing.
How long have you
Yeah.
guys been married now?
24 years.
24 years. All right. Congratulations. That's a good number. That's a good amount of time. You've done something there.
Quarter century of
It's
bliss.
not bad. Quarter century of bliss, man. I love it. So
Can I really quick? Can I jump in really quick?
Please.
And I don't. Charity's a crown virtue, and I'm striving to be more charitable, Portia. So when I ask this question, I hope I don't offend.
It'll be really
And I'm
hard
not
to
saying let's go back and rehash some past transgressions.
no,
but-
I'm open, wide open.
As our folks are listening to this, and they're coming from different situations, have you ever done an autopsy on what led to your fall?
Oh, yeah.
And were there warning signs, or were there informers trying to come up to you and say, hey, tap the brakes, you're heading to this, right? And can you just share a little bit about maybe
let me
where
do
they're
that.
at? And the idea is that, you know, if I think we all have these things that are in our lives, you know, and the prophets asked us to remove old debris, and some of us are working hard on those things, and some of us are loving the old debris and we don't want it to go away. So could you talk a little bit about that autopsy process?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that I did when I was in prison was an inventory, and it was no little thing. It took me 6 months, and I made a spreadsheet of everything from the time I was 4 years old in categories that I had done wrong, and took ownership of it and shared it with the group in there. And then I buried it.
Whoa, and shared it.
Yeah, but the reason that I chose to do that was because a woman. I was trying, so you get to prison and you feel imprisoned, believe it or not. You do, you feel imprisoned. But I had this idea that I could feel free, but I couldn't figure out how. And I knew that, and I'll go back in a minute and tell you that I was fairly imprisoned. I had imprisoned myself before I went into prison. And this is how it went for me. So I got into the 12-step recovery program. Life got good. We got married. We went to the temple, and we had a good life. We had a little older home, and I started a business, and Chad was working, and we had these 2 children that were kind of getting into the teen years or getting a little older. I had a photography company that grew like mad. So I went from like 10 to 30 to 200 weddings a year. I had employees, and it was just growing. And we started building a new home. After I had our first son together, I had a back surgery and I relapsed on prescription drugs. And about that time, we moved to Highland, and the real estate market was going crazy. And at the same time, I felt completely overwhelmed. Then I found out I was pregnant again. And so there was a lot going on in our life. And in my mind, I had to come up with a solution. It was the complete wrong thing to do. Looking back, I should have done a solid inventory then and figured out what mattered most and simplified our life financially and everything else. But I saw people building spec homes, so I got involved in that. And eventually I was led into what's called an equity deal, which is that you flip these houses and borrow more than they're worth from the bank and invest them in other ventures. And I remember clearly that being told not to do it, like I felt the Spirit just say, don't do it. And I did anyway. You know, my judgment wasn't good. My integrity wasn't where it should be. And I, you know, over time, I started making those decisions. So that's really what I was indicted for. And the other just fatal mistake for me was that instead of owning it, when I started getting investigated, because, you know, I thought this is so unfair. Everybody else is doing worse. There's banks are involved, appraisers are involved, everyone's involved. Why are they coming for me? I could have just looked at them and said, you know what? Here's where I went wrong. I've got this addiction. I'm struggling. I'm trying to get myself back on track and get into treatment. I've made these mistakes. I own it. I need to work through it. I would have got so much less time and it would have been a completely different story. But I didn't do that. I just kept in my mind, there's no way I can go to prison. I will lose so much. I'll lose my identity. I can't leave my kids. I can't leave my husband. You know, what will people think of me? All those things were getting in the way of just taking the power of truth and owning it and saying, I made a mistake. Help me figure it out. So once I got to prison, and I felt very imprisoned because of the decisions I made, because you get a lot of time to think about it. And I was devastated because of the separation from my family and the mistakes I'd made. You know, my kids, my family, my husband, they're out here struggling. I made these awful decisions financially that led to this indictment that has now put me in prison, and we're pretty much ruined financially. I just felt bankrupt on every level. And I worked in education, and there were a lot of other white collar, I guess, money crime women in there that were very smart. And I was trying to figure out how to free myself, but all of us just sit around talking about how the government was so wrong and we were so right, you know, and that happens in prison. And then I was in a class, and a woman got up and shared so truthfully and honestly everything she'd ever done to hurt anyone, and took full responsibility for it. And while I was in that class, there was a silence that came over everybody. There was about 70 women, and it was like this power filled the room. And when that happened, I knew right then that if I could admit my mistakes and take full ownership for it, that I would be able to free myself in prison. Like I wouldn't feel in prison anymore, because I wouldn't feel like, you know, the government did me wrong. Now, it was not easy, because taking full ownership meant taking a real honest look at me and what I'd done, and reaching out to my kids and saying, nope, it wasn't the government. It was me. I did this. It was asking Chad to tell me how I hurt him. It was the sorrow that comes with those decisions, that instead of, you know, denying it and avoiding that sorrow, I had to really embrace that sorrow and seek my Savior to help me through that and watch my children hurt. So, but that's what I chose to do. And it really did free me. And the latter part of my sentence was my blessing, because I felt so much freer. So I don't remember the question you asked, but that, sorry, I could go on and on. But the truth
that's
is,
it.
that's what led me there.
Right?
That's
that
what led me there, and
autopsy
that's
is
how
like,
I got out.
where did things go so wrong? And I love that. Thank you for just kind of letting us in on that, because we talk a lot about the code that's going between our ears.
Right.
We talk a lot about the things that we tell ourselves. And if you can control that code, if you can control that, or even change that script,
yeah, flip the script.
you can control a lot of things about the choices that you make and your eternal destiny.
Yeah.
Where if you yield control,
yep,
addiction, even anxiety, and, you know, just that negative self-talk, which I can imagine you probably face that on a daily in prison, right?
I think I faced the truth, which was that I did some really dumb things. But
yeah.
You know,
yeah, but I mean, I think that self-talk, and like when you say in my mind, like coming to the reality that the most powerful thing I can do right now is own my S word.
yeah,
Right? Like
right.
just own this thing.
Yep.
Excuses stop. Excuses. What is it? What is your quote, Tyler? Right? Like excuses just to the smallest degree, an excuse weakens character.
Yeah.
You know, and
Truth is powerful. It's painful sometimes, but it's powerful. And when you can own what you did, everything, and you can say, I'm here 100% because of my decisions, you have the power to create a new future. You have the power to look forward and start dreaming again. And I did. I decided this is what my life's going to look like. I visualized it. I chose what I wanted my character to be, what would be important to me. I rewrote my values, my core values. Because I had owned what I had done, I had the power and recognized that it's 100% up to me to change it. Prior to that, I was waiting for the government to come apologize. And that was not going to happen anytime soon.
Well, and Portia, you did all of that because another woman stood up and showed incredible bravery. Mm-hmm. And I love how you said power filled the room. And it's almost like it gave you the green light. And here you are, a daughter of God, imprisoned, and you're praying, right? Or you're feeling like, how can I be free in this space?
Yeah. And
this woman stands up and says,
shows me the way, you know?
Yeah.
Let me tell you about some things I did. Like, oh my goodness, the courage of that moral inventory you speak of. That's scary. Honestly, that's
so
scary.
So powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love the ownership, and I love the courage of you retelling that story, of you stepping it up in that space and taking 6 months and just wiping the slate clean.
Yeah.
So let's talk for a few minutes about coming out of prison, Portia, and sort of getting back to a normal life with what that looks like. And Chad, I'd love to get your insights on that as well. I mean, right. You've been, you said 4.5 years, mm-hmm. Portia?
Yeah, we were apart 4.5 years.
So 4.5 years of time, and you know, you remain committed, obviously, to each other and to your family. But what does that look like coming back and sort of reuniting and looking at what the future looks like now? Because it's, you know, you've said it's wholly different than what it was prior to.
It's true. You talk, Chad.
Talk. I'm just like a little monkey. You just tell me to talk. Just
dance.
The grinder. Come on.
Dance, monkey, dance.
That's right. That was so well said, Chad.
Yeah. Coming home was the monkey song. I forgot about that. Man, ton of thoughts right now. So Portia and I we kind of joke that if the roles were reversed, how much easier I think I would have had an easy time in prison, working out and just I mean, not easy, but I don't know. I know it's that rock thing we talked about the other night. I can just be there, and I think that she would have, done a great job of moving on. So I think that we were. It's interesting how we end up with in our situation. We ended up with what we needed, or maybe with what we could handle. So. The 4.5 years was taking its toll on our family. My faith was strong, but that execution, man, it was hard to go to church. My kids didn't want to go. I started after 4 years of sitting in the back row, with mom's not there, and the kids didn't want to go, and so. Especially as teenagers, it got hard. And as they stopped going, I would go with our younger daughter, and the two of us were there, and we'd get a lot of questions of, hey, your teenagers, they're not here today. And, I kind of, it became difficult. after 4.5 years. And so, I talked about how my faith was still strong. I still had no doubt, but man, again, the execution became difficult. So as Portia came home, she worked her butt off in making herself, working on herself, getting herself right with the Lord, with us. And she worked really hard, and she brought an energy and a light. Don't like that I do this, but anyway, she brought an energy and a light that was just infused into our family, and just what how great it was to be reunited, and to be reminded of how we, why we're married, why we need a companion, why we are our best selves with that balance. Oh, man. And it just our Father in Heaven's plan is perfect. We're not perfect. I'm far from perfect, but His plan is perfect. And when we, as we, follow that plan, man, things work out. And just what a great reunion that was, and what a needed and timely reunion.
I got to tell you, Chad, I'm kind of choking up. Rocks don't cry either.
Don't talk, they don't cry.
Chad, can I just tell you, hey, thank you for kind of letting us in on that perspective.
Yeah.
And this story is so full of contradictions. Earlier I said integrity and prison don't really go together. And people coming out of prison bringing light and energy into your lives. That feels like we're swimming upstream. Right? That feels like that's only something God can do. It's kind of like, honestly, up here in Northern California, every summer's wildfires just ravage our land. But, and then that March comes and everything that was black turns electric green. And it's kind of thinking that, like, as we run the program, right, as we follow Heavenly Father's plan, he can take devastating things and bring them to life, right? And bring them to life and bring them back better. And I'm not going to ask, it's crazy to think, if you could do it all over again, would you do it this way? I think that's an unfair question to even ask, but you have shared the amazing blessings and the amazing lessons and the amazing life that you have on the other end of it. And to me, that just speaks to there is a God, and he has a son. And that pottery that is broken and they use gold to mend it. Like, that's what I'm looking at as I look at the Louders. And it's so touching to me. Can I just ask this question, though? Because people are people. God is God and God is good. People are a wreck. And my heart breaks to think about what your family went through with Portia in prison. Because people are people. And they're going to talk. And they're going to gossip. And they're going to say things about your kids. Kids at school might say things to your kids. Chad, at home, how were you the rock for your kids? I mean, one thing I get it, putting on the brave face for Portia, but you're with these kids 24, you're in the home with them. How were you there for them?
That's a great question. I was here for them. I guess that's physically being here. I made it a point to, we did things, we became a little pack, I guess. I almost became one of the kids, I didn't go golfing with my friends. I did nothing because I wanted to be here when they got home from school, when we go to, football practice, whatever, I tried to, volunteer whenever I could to coach teams and did. And, we were able to spend a lot of time together, and we were blessed. We were blessed, because of that. So, I don't remember your question, but
the answer's perfect. So
that's a perfect
matter, right?
answer.
Yeah.
That's a perfect answer. But again, Tyler,
Yeah.
I would pose the question: can we learn that now?
Yeah.
Right? Can we learn that money doesn't matter? Can we learn that you have moments, that a drive to taking a kid to school could be an amazing highlight of your day? Right? Can we get above the monotony of day-to-day life and see that it could be extraordinary, ordinary moments, right? And can we have those eyes to see things without having to go the trail, the Chad?
But I will refer back to something that Chad said. He said that we ended up with what we needed, and I think that's an interesting comment. Because the question is, hey, can we become who we need to become? Can we get where we need to get without traveling through the muck and the mud and everything else, right? And here we have, Chad and Portia, you're telling these amazing stories, and there's probably people that are listening that are going to say, gosh, I could never do that. But then here on the other side, it's this beautiful thing, and we ended up with what we needed. And I think that if somehow, maybe the trick is, Mike, that we don't need to figure out how to become without going through it, but the trick is to figure out how to understand that we ended up with what we needed, and that gets us to where we need to, how we become, right? I mean, I think of all the garbage that I've done and gone through and experienced, but gosh, that's what chipped off the hard edges, right? And that's what allows me to try to continue to become something that's
I had a neighbor illustrate this. I thought it's a great example. If we all took, if you took 100 people and you took the hardest thing that they had to go through, something, a child going through cancer, someone passing away, there's just, the list is endless. You fold it up and you put it in a hat, shake it up, and then we all, pick it out. I think that the other persons are going to seem harder. Like, I'll take what I went through rather than losing a child, rather than, A, B, C, D, E. And so, man, it's just part of the deal.
Portia, can I just pick on something you said in an earlier answer? You said, I had imprisoned myself before I went into prison.
Yeah.
I love what that's doing in my brain a little bit, right? I mean, I think of the quote, how sad would it be at the end of your life to realize you never lived?
Right.
And there's people that are free walking around imprisoned, and there are people in prison that are more free. Like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of baffling my brain a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So, by the end of my prison sentence, I felt so much joy and so much love and connection with the women that were there. I realized that there is a difference between freedom and liberty. And, we didn't have our liberty, but we had so much freedom. I had so much freedom. When I got home this last year, I decided to put all of the blog posts, the letters, and everything together in a book. And at the end of the book, or at the I have a college professor that read through the book, and he said, Portia, you make life in prison sound charming. And I said, no, Bill, it's not charming. I said, but I was certainly a lot more charming by the end of my prison sentence than I was when I got in there, and that's that freedom that I felt. I mean, keep in mind, we don't have any technology in there. So when you first get there, God, we don't have cell phones. Well, now when I first got out of prison, I'm looking around at everybody and thinking, that phone owns you. That phone owns you, you guys are owned by all of your stuff. I mean, I lived out of a locker. I had 4 t-shirts. They were all the same color and 1 pair of shoes and a pair of shorts. I was free. I had nothing and I had everything. I had the other thing that I had was that I did not care anymore what anyone thought. I loved everybody, but I really felt like I was right with my God. I knew that I had done what I could do, and that I knew it was acceptable to him, because in prayer I had done what I could. I'd done what I was asked to do, and I felt very free. And when I came home, I felt loved and accepted. And you brought up a good point. Did people judge you? I don't know, because I was just so grateful and happy. And I just assumed, no, I didn't care. It's so funny. I was asked to speak in state conference, and one of the men in our bishopric called afterward, and he goes, can you come over to our house? And we said, sure. And he said, I want what you have. He's like, I want what you have. Because I just got up and spoke about prison and talked about the mistakes that I made and owning it, and how, taking full accountability and seeking, I apologized to anyone that I may have hurt, and my family, and asked them to tell me how I hurt them. And I said, and I know who my Savior is. I know, because I've reached out to him. And he said, I want that. He goes, you seem so free. And I said, well, yeah, I feel very free, and I'm super grateful for that. But prior to prison, I felt imprisoned, and I didn't know it till I got to prison. And then I was like, I felt victimized. And once I was able to see that it was my own doing that got me there, I was able to start working my way out. And like you say, by the end, I felt so grateful. I remember sitting on a bench outside before, Chad it was about a couple of weeks before he was going to come pick me up. It's so cool to me, just the whole thing to me by the end of it was just beautiful. But anyway, I'm sitting out on the bench. I'm in California at the time, and it's in Victorville. So it's the evening, and the sun in the desert. It was just beautiful. The sunset. And there's a whole bunch of women that I know have been through hard things, and they're all out there dancing and singing. We don't have any radio. So they're making up different tunes, and it was great. And I thought, this is such a beautiful moment. I want to capture it. And I know there's going to come a day where I'm going to wish that, and it wasn't long after I got out of prison, I'm like, I miss that connection, So yeah, that was what I learned, that there is freedom comes from the inside. When you're free on the inside, when your soul is free, then you can live anywhere. It doesn't matter where you are. You feel a connection to God. I felt so spiritually connected to my family. I felt so connected to every woman that came in there. I loved them. It was my blessing. I was so grateful for it.
Well, so many thoughts. It's funny that what you're talking about with the stuff, because as Chad was talking about being there for his kids, my son's about to come home from work. And the first thought I had was, let's go throw our cell phones in the lake.
Yeah. Right.
Let's go order pizza, watch some playoff basketball, throw the freaking phones in the lake, and and hang out. Right. Kelly's gone for the weekend, and it'd be kind of fun. We own stuff, but in reality, our stuff starts to own us. And then as you're talking about that member of your bishopric saying, hey, come over here, I want what you have. I remember joining the church at 19 when I got baptized. I remember people coming up to me, members of the church, saying, man, I'm so jealous.
Right.
It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm so jealous. Like, you're so clean and so fresh. And I'm like, it's there for all of us. Right. And I think that we have this issue that sometimes we talk about activity. I was inactive, I was active. And I think that that could be free and imprisoned, right?
Right.
There's a lot of people that are active that are inactive. And there are a lot of people that are inactive that have a vibrant living faith,
Right.
right? Their circumstances maybe don't plant them in a pew on Sunday,
Right.
but their faith is active.
Right.
And I really think we just need to make sure that we have a clear understanding that there is a church and there is the Savior.
Yes.
The Savior has organized and restored a church to help us connect with the Savior.
Correct.
And I think sometimes we plug into that church and it doesn't give us what Portia was experiencing and sharing out. And people come running to that and saying, like moth, right? To the flame, like, whoa, what do you have? And it's like, well, I have what this is all supposed to be pointing us to.
Well, I lived 3 years as the only member on a compound, and I prayed with women of all different faiths, and my testimony grew like it's never grown before. I felt so connected to my Father in heaven. And I loved the gospel. I loved being in church. I loved being in church in prison. I would go, in sweats. I mean, that's the only thing you can go in because, but I mean, I felt it. And a lot of times, I was the only person, the volunteers would come in. I never missed it. But my life was much more church centered and church culture centered before I went to prison. Not anymore. I love the gospel, but my faith is in my Savior and my Father in heaven. And he loves everyone. And he's working in all of our lives. What I know about the gospel of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is that there is power and protection. I felt it when I was, in prison. I felt it when we went to the temple. And I know that those bonds seal us together. And I'm grateful for that. But I also know that our Father in heaven works in everybody's lives because I saw it. I saw him working in people's lives of all different faiths. So
that idea of connection, there's a counterfeit out there. Like our world is saying it's connected. Yes. All this network.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely.
All the social media and all of these things are supposed to be connecting us, and it actually isn't connecting.
Right.
Yeah.
It's contrived, it's artificial, and we're suffering the consequences. Oh, man. Portia, I got to ask you and Chad this question, because here you are, you're reunited, right? You're identifying and kind of defining what that life looks like. What gives you hope? You talked about dreaming, Portia. I can dream again.
Yeah.
What gives you hope out there on the horizon for both of you? What gives you hope these days?
What gives me meaning and hope? Well, first of all, my hope comes through my Father in heaven. I don't even know how cool our life is going to get. Like, to me, it's just, there you are. So anyway, I don't even know. What gives me hope is the human spirit, watching my children transform, working at a treatment center and watching people transform, knowing like our lives, how much richer they're going to be and have become. And I don't know, I'm excited. I mean, just visiting with you guys tonight, to me, is a great experience. You just never know. You meet people and it just, people are my passion. I love the connection. It's why I work at a treatment center. I still write to anyone in prison. I work with the church on a prison ministry group. I'm passionate about my experiences, and I just love the capacity the human spirit has to change. And I have so much hope in all of us. I have hope in our future as a church and as a society, and the good that I see all around me. If I were to say what I'm passionate about, I would say that I'm passionate about humanizing the whole experience of people being in prison.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's do this, awesome. Because there's these amazing stories of beauty and resilience and strength that nobody knows. And I'm going to share them. I'm super excited. So it's happening.
Hey, Portia, I'm buying that book. Let's go.
Amen. Let's do it, man. Absolutely.
I don't know, Portia. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my background. So I'm Michael Paul Freeman Jr. Mm-hmm. And my dad, I never met him. Mm-hmm. 2 weeks before I was born, he was on the run with my mom. He wrote counterfeit checks. Mm-hmm. He would come into town, set up fake payroll, and he would pay himself fake money and blast and live it up for a couple of days, and then they'd have to bounce. And he realized he can't raise a kid this way. And he went. It was the family business. It's what they did.
Yeah.
Generational. He went and said, we can't do this. Name him after me. And got her home. And he then proceeded to spend the rest of his life in prison.
Wow.
And I never met him. He passed away in a mobile home in Ocala, Florida, alone of a diabetic coma. I received some letters from time to time.
Yeah.
There are people they have lives.
Yep.
They have family that we don't think about.
Yeah.
And it's a shocking amount of people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an increasing rate of people. And it's a sign. I mean, I don't mean to get all like on the soapbox, but it's a symptom of brokenness.
Yeah, it is.
It's a symptom of like, we're not able to meet basic human needs, and basic human needs will be met.
Right.
If people don't feel loved, they will join gangs.
Right.
If people don't feel basic needs, like I got to eat, Jean Valjean will steal the bread.
Right.
To eat. So as we do these things, hurt people, and if we're not addressing those things that are hurting us, I mean, eventually it's gonna break, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening. So thank you so much for your ministering efforts. Thank you so much for just kind of shining the light on the goodness of people. I think sometimes we think you're either good or bad. You're either good or you're bad. Or can you imagine if we were judged by the worst thing we've ever done?
Yeah.
The best of us aren't too good, right? I can be amazing, and I can be idiotic in the same sentence, right? So thank you for just the humanizing aspect of the work that you're doing.
So listen, Louder family. We could do this all night long. Honestly, I could sit here all night, and I know Chad wants to. He's like dialed in. I feel it, man. I'm feeling it. But we've been together for a couple hours, and we do really, really do appreciate your willingness to come and share some things with us tonight. And it's been powerful. And for me, I mean, there's just so many pages of notes of things that you guys have said, and I'm grateful for that, for your willingness to share that. But as Mike alluded to at the beginning of the show, you know, the name of the show, The Richest Men in Town, is taken from one of our favorite movies, It's a Wonderful Life, and the character of George Bailey. And I couldn't help but think, as you guys were talking, when, you know, the scene at the end of the movie when George is on the bridge and he's praying and he's just saying, I want to live again. You know, I want to live again. And how great it is that we have these second chances and these third chances and these fourth chances to overcome the things that we've done and just become the people that we're meant to be. And I appreciate your examples. But Chad, I'm going to start with you. We ask that we end our show always with the same question. And Chad, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest man in town?
That means just knowing who I am, knowing where I come from, and knowing the potential that I have, and knowing that I have a family, and that this family brings a tremendous amount of joy, and knowing that makes me feel rich. So I think that's it.
I love that. Portia, what does it mean to you to be considered the richest woman in town?
I think along the lines of what Chad said, knowing who I am is extremely important, and also the freedom that I feel internally is a big part of, there is it's interesting that you said that, because I did an interview with a gal, and at the end of the show, I told her, I said, I don't really care too much about what anyone thinks anymore. I love people, but I care what I think. And I'm living in alignment with my own values. And she said, that's gold. And I think that I consider that gold, because there were times in my life where I was in so much conflict. But today I can say, I'm true to myself. I keep my word with myself and my family. And I know who I am. And I feel like the richest woman in town. So.
Well, I can tell you, I appreciate everything you guys have shared tonight, and man, it's hard to cut it off, right, Mike? I mean,
well,
crying out loud.
A couple of thoughts.
Yeah,
Chad's eyes got to me. He was talking to me, and I was like,
I told you he has magic powers.
He got to me, and I was like, whoa, yeah, those are angelic for sure.
Yes, he's amazing.
But as I honestly, as I listen and I think back on the last couple hours that we spent, I just think of that verse, Tyler, that's kind of been on my mind, is that Moroni chapter 10, I think it's 8, where it's just deny not the gifts of God. I really feel like I'm talking to a couple of gifted people. Oh, yeah. And what you're talking about feels really easy when I'm talking to you. I just want everyone to understand there's nothing easy about this story. There's nothing easy about the choices that you have made. There's nothing easy about the journey and the path that you've walked. And we're not at all in some Disney movie where you're riding off in the sunset, right? You have 5 kids. They're marrying people. They're having little humans, right? You've got worries. You've got things, and you're all in that life that you're living. And I love, Tyler, you and I have been blessed to talk to people that have gifts.
Yeah.
And tonight I feel like we've stumbled on a couple of very rich people. And I really hope that our people, that our little tribe of listeners will listen with the intent to do something about it. Moral inventory. Think about what that could do, right? Owning stuff, connecting with people. I love your story. And I just think how proud your parents are. I think how grateful you must be for those angels that gave you what you needed in the moment that you needed it. And we'll leave them unnamed because that's exactly probably how those people want to do it.
Yeah.
They don't want the right hand to know what the left hand is doing. There's just people out there that wake up like, I know that family's up against it, and let's see what we can do. And I found that to be one of the most inspiring parts of this story.
Well, me. And I think too, Mike, there's people, and we all know this, right? I mean, we're all dealing with something, right? Everyone's dealing with something. And no matter where you're at, it's the hardest thing, right? Yeah. It's the hardest thing. And I hope that tonight people listen and they realize that, hey, there's a way forward. There's a way forward. There's a path. There's a way for me to get through this, and I can do it. And look, I'm inspired by you guys. We appreciate you. We love you. We're grateful for you. And, if you're ever in the top or the bottom of the state of California, you've got friends here. So thanks for your time.
There's no way, Tyler, there is no way we are done with the Louder family.
Well, I'm certainly not inviting them to Disneyland, for crying out loud. I can tell you that much.
Thanks for having us. It's been great.
Well, we appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
All right. We'll talk again soon. You take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good idea, Ernie. A toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town.